As science has developed, human beings' understanding of the world is still constantly updating, and the topic of ozone is an example. In May and June 2017, many media reported news about ozone pollution, and environmental quality monitoring reports frequently mentioned ozone pollution, pointing out the harm of ozone to the human body. These statements have aroused public attention to ozone. Has ozone become the culprit of air pollution? Isn't the ozone we knew before? While blocking the strong ultraviolet rays for us, above the Earth, and acting as a protective umbrella for life on Earth. So, is ozone really toxic?
In fact, I think the statement that ozone is toxic is not very accurate. Because ozone is harmful to the human body only when people are in such a high concentration. For example, our national standard is that the ozone environment of 0.15 ppm must last for 10 hours.
Since it takes enough time and a certain concentration to be harmful, is there a risk of harm if a person is exposed to high ozone concentration outdoors all day?
Why is it called ozone? Because it has a special smell. When we smell the ozone, the concentration of ozone is 0.02 ppm, which is a unit of 1/100th. That is to say, we are 7.5 times away from the concentration of ozone that can cause harm to our bodies. That is to say, when you can't even smell it, you say that ozone is poisonous. This statement is not very accurate.
As we all know, the ozone layer protects the Earth from excessive ultraviolet radiation and creates a comfortable living space for life on Earth. Now, when we talk about ozone pollution, is there a sufficient concentration of ozone gas in the air near the ground? If so, where does the ozone in the air come from?
Because there are many gases in our air, such as nitrogen, oxygen, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen. When these gases are exposed to ultraviolet rays in the atmosphere, they will produce a lot of carbon oxides, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and some hydrocarbons, including ozone. When these gases are mixed together, there may be some smell, but this smell is not simply the smell of ozone.
It turns out that under strong ultraviolet radiation, ozone gas may be generated in the air. But the concentration of these ozone is extremely low. And because ozone has the physical property that its concentration will not accumulate in nature, ozone will quickly decompose into oxygen in the air. People can't smell the smell of ozone at all. It has already turned into oxygen.
So in our daily environment, ozone decomposes very quickly. If you want to reach the limit concentration of ozone that is harmful to the human body, it is actually very difficult. Even if we want to deliberately raise the concentration of ozone to such a high level in the laboratory, it requires specific equipment and a specific closed space to achieve it. In our daily lives, this situation does not exist, and the conditions are not met.
So, what is the bad smell we smell when the air is seriously polluted? In fact, the smell we smell is the smell of various compounds produced by chemical reactions when impure air is exposed to strong sunlight. So, the more rigorous term for this situation should be called photochemical pollution, not ozone pollution. Ozone is non-toxic, and its most eye-catching label is its unique smell and strong oxidizing property. This strong oxidizing property makes ozone look a little different. If it acts on the human body at high concentration for a long time, it will indeed cause discomfort to the human body. But in real life, the possibility of such harm is about zero. Because ozone does not accumulate in the air, it will quickly decompose into oxygen. Properly increasing the amount of ozone in humid air can make the air fresher.
Here is a machine for preparing ozone, which can prepare ozone gas with a concentration of 20%. Today, I will experience what ozone smells like. The ozone generator started working. Ozone does have a special smell. What is it? I think it is like the smell of soil in the forest after it rains. If we talk about the harm of ozone to the human body, it may be irritating. But the premise is that people are in a high concentration of ozone for a long time. But there are no conditions in nature to produce such high concentrations of ozone. So the harm of ozone to the human body can be said to be minimal.
Human beings have been studying and applying ozone for more than 100 years. In 1913, French physicist Fabry discovered that in the atmosphere below 20 kilometers, due to the lack of oxygen atoms, there is little chance of generating ozone. At an altitude of 20 to 30 kilometers, due to the enhanced solar radiation, oxygen molecules decompose under the action of ultraviolet radiation, increasing the number of oxygen atoms, resulting in an increase in the chances of oxygen atoms and oxygen molecules combining to form ozone, making this layer form the maximum ozone content, thus forming the ozone layer. In daily life, researchers use strong ultraviolet rays to irradiate the air to produce ozone, and use the strong oxidizing property of ozone to apply it in the fields of disinfection and sewage treatment. However, the problem with this air purification method is that nitrogen and hydrogen in the air are then produced into oxides and hydroxides, which are the real culprits of pollution.
Some companies we have contacted, when they use the Corona method to treat sewage, strictly do not allow people to approach the treatment area. This is because when the Corona method produces ozone, a large amount of nitrogen oxides are produced. They resolutely prevent people from being on the scene, and there will be obvious signs to tell people to stay away from a certain number of meters. It is not because ozone is harmful to the human body, but because this nitrogen oxide is harmful to the human body.
Although the Corona method allows people to obtain ozone, it is strictly controlled in the industrial field because it produces a large number of byproducts. However, the method of electrolyzing water can produce pure ozone without producing byproducts.
The Corona method usually uses air as its raw material, and then uses a specific device to directly prepare ozone from air. The electrolysis method directly uses water as its raw material, uses cathode and anode through electrolysis, and then turns water into hydrogen and ozone. The ultimate goal of these two methods is to produce ozone for sterilization or decomposition of organic matter. However, the uses of ozone produced by these two methods should actually be distinguished.
Both methods can produce ozone. The difference is that the electrolysis of water is safe and environmentally friendly. How strong is the strong oxidizing property of ozone?
Generally speaking, ozone is used in water purification, including sterilization and disinfection. Because of its strong oxidizing properties, we added rhodamine solution to this aqueous solution. Rhodamine is a dye, you see it is colored. If it can make the strong oxidizing property of ozone degrade the dye molecule, then it will fade. This is also the process of using such a rhodamine solution to simulate the ozone treatment of organic pollutants in water.
Inject ozone into polluted water, and in a very short time, ozone turns red water into clear water. This is not magic, but ozone quickly degrades organic matter in the water, achieving a purification effect without any residue. Because ozone will not stay in the air or water, it will quickly decompose into oxygen. Because it is safe and environmentally friendly, does not produce any harmful gases. And ozone quickly decomposes into oxygen. This method has brought ozone into our daily lives, allowing ozone to be used in a wider range of food and drug disinfection fields. The most common use now is in the disinfection and preservation of household drinking water and food. So can drinking water that has been disinfected with ozone meet the safest drinking standards?
All foods need to be tested for microorganisms. For bottled water, testing for pathogenic bacteria is a very important safety item.
In the laboratory for testing microorganisms, we provide drinking water that has been disinfected with ozone. I wonder if this bottle of water can withstand strict microbial testing. According to the National Standard for Drinking Water, 19,298, the detection rate of certain pathogenic bacteria in packaged drinking water must be 0. Otherwise, if a bacterium is detected, it means that the water is not suitable for drinking. People who drink water containing bacteria will be at risk of getting sick.
Our microbial testing here is mainly based on the national standard method. For example, if it is in water, it is mainly carried out using the membrane filter method. After filtering the membrane, it is cultured. Because, for example, if the national standard requires to detect copper green or coliform bacteria, we will targeted test this bacteria according to its standard. The result of the sample sent this time is that no uniform alpha-mannose and coliform bacteria were detected. It meets the product standard of 19,298 packaged drinking water.
As drinking water that our bodies must consume every day, the most important indicators are cleanliness and safety. Safety means that our drinking water must be strictly purified and disinfected to ensure that the water does not contain too many impurities and bacteria that cause human illness, such as microcystin. This kind of bacteria, which cannot be killed by ordinary boiling, is easy to break out in the humid south. If it is consumed frequently, it will cause damage to the human liver. Other common pathogenic bacteria in our lives, such as Escherichia coli and aeruginosa, can also cause food or drinking water poisoning. The best way to prevent and eliminate the hidden dangers brought to us by various pathogenic bacteria is to pay strict attention to the disinfection safety of food and drinking water. In the face of rampant pathogenic bacteria, we must find a sterilization method that is both safe and efficient.
Nowadays, the entire society uses a large amount of water. We produce it because it is regulated by the water industry, and safety and quality are our concerns. After so much monitoring, according to the National Food Safety Standards, we found that there are a lot of food safety hazards in water plant or in our bottled water. The problem of incomplete disinfection is quite common, and some pathogens cannot be completely eliminated.
Faced with various problems in the drinking water industry, as a government department that regulates food and drug safety, the Guangdong Provincial Food and Drug Administration has focused on regulating the production and sales of the drinking water industry in Guangdong Province since 2017. In many public places, they use hydrolysis, ozone disinfection technology to sterilize food and drinking water.
According to the law, we must promote the use of advanced food safety technologies and methods. This is a requirement of our new food safety law. Then our government departments can promote some new technologies and methods in this regard.
In many European countries, people are already accustomed to the application of ozone in medical treatment.
In fact, the sterilization use of ozone is very extensive. For example, there are wounds and ulcers on the surface of our skin. In this way, there are many large medical institutions abroad that use relatively high concentrations of ozone to treat such wounds. Because when ozone is just produced, its sterilization effect is very good. Then, after contacting the skin surface is quickly sterilized. In the process of sterilization, it quickly decomposes into oxygen, will not penetrate into the human body, and will not cause further damage to the human body.
Because, in a short period of time, ozone can quickly kill harmful bacteria and decompose into oxygen without producing any byproducts and residues. At present, in countries such as Germany and Italy, ozone has become the latest artifact for preventing and treating many diseases. And our understanding of ozone has continued to deepen with the in-depth research. Scientific progress is our gradual subversion or updating of old knowledge. And it also helps us to better understand the world. Ozone is not only a protective umbrella for the Earth, but also a good friend of mankind. In medical and more application fields, ozone has been continuously concerned by more and more scientists.